William Ruto did win this election with about 7.2 million of the votes against Raila Odinga's 6.9. We want to get deeper into that conversation and also what they plan to do this morning. Raila Odinga, I believe right now, is probably about to land, coming from South Africa, where he was on a working tour, and now he's coming back to the country to give the country, or rather his supporters, a direction in regards to that. Joining me for this conversation this morning is Edgar Kosgey. Thank you so much for making time again. No, I did welcome you, man.
Listen. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And also Cliff Otega is joining us. He's a policy and political analyst. Cliff is not new to the show, of course. He's a friend of the show. Thank you so much, Cliff, once again.
Thanks. Great to be here again.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I believe we haven't met this year.
Yes, we
haven't. Happy New Year. Now, we want to get into this conversation. Let's just start with it. First, I don't know if you are ready with that particular clip of Raila Odinga in South Africa being interviewed by SABC, so that you can listen to what he said. And yes, I believe we'll be getting into that. We'll be listening to what he said later on. But what do you make of this? Let me start with you, Cliff. What do you make of this planned Kamukunji first?
The rally in and of itself is not an issue, okay? As long as it's peaceful, non-violent. The concern we have as a country is today, it's a Monday, it's a working day. So if we see tens of thousands or even thousands of, especially young people there, what does that say about our economy and how people are engaged in productive things? Not to say that political, our activity is not productive, but we've just gone through close to 3 years of electioneering. We had an outcome. It was disputed. It was confirmed by the Supreme Court. We need to, I'm not a fan of the phrase move on, because that in some ways that one seems to diminish some people's aspirations and concerns. So it's not really about move on and ignore the past, but it's about how do we structure our politics in a way that it does not overwhelm our economics. So today's rally, it's enshrined in the Constitution, political activity and that sort of thing. Let it be peaceful and let it not take us deeper into, we're in a deep economic hole, and that I think should be the focus. Yeah, that should be everybody's focus.
All right.
Yeah, so those are my initial thoughts about that.
Okay, let me get to you, Edgar. Just what you think about it. What do you make of this Kamukunji rally?
We have gone through electoral processes, and we've been given a verdict that cannot be appealed. Now we are getting new evidence of electoral malpractice from a white man called Jeffrey. Yeah. Do you follow him on Twitter? He has just thrown them under the bus. He is saying, I don't understand what you people are talking about in Kenya. I did not say I have evidence. So what is he coming to tell us? But the narrative has gone out there, and the local Mwananchi doesn't even know who that white man is. But we know we have evidence, and we are going to Kamukunji, and we are going to tell the world that the president should be Raila Odinga. What does that tell you about the communication that we are doing to our people who do not have a second thought on what has been communicated? The economy has started picking up, and we have started building the country. And we have people now who are dissatisfied because of the information out there.
All right. Now, listen, do we dismiss the concerns of Raila Odinga in the name of, we have a country to protect and all that? What if his concerns are genuine to some extent?
It's tough. It's tough. It doesn't matter. If you're a right-thinking person, we have a constitution. We went through each step of that process. It doesn't matter what side of the divide you're on. We went through each step, Now, I read, I can't remember who I was listening to, I read just yesterday, and they were saying, which I think was also the issue during that Supreme Court case. If you produce, for example, just 10 of those Form 34As, and I can't believe we're talking about these forms again, so many months later. But if you just produce 10, and you said here are the 10 from constituency X, Y, and Z, and here are the 10 that are on the portal, and these are the critical differences. That the time to do that was last year, August, September? Yeah,
September. Around before September, after August, I think from 14th of August all the way to, Yes,
to early September. So the challenge is, And I'm urging just Kenyans, let's just be rational, you know. You have a process that everybody has signed up to. We've gone through it. Then we've been quiet for 4 months in terms of talking about these things. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you come up with this. So it's not really about dismissing or supporting. It's about us being very reasonable, because we all have a country to live in. And I'd be the last person to say, oh, let's dismiss people's concerns. But this might not be the way to do it.
All right.
Yeah, this might not be the way to do it. Let's look because it's always a work in progress. No system is perfect. So what to me would be more useful is, let's say, okay, let's take the Supreme Court judgment. I remember they actually had a list of recommendations, and let's start addressing them one by one. So let both sides of the divide, and I think we should even stop having this divide, but that sounds like utopia. But let both sides of politics as they align today come up with their recommendations. Let's hash it out. You know, of course, there'll have to be public participation, and let's make a better system. All
right. Now, on that note, I want us to look at, or just get to look at and hear exactly what Raila Odinga was saying in regards to this planned rally and that whistleblower. And this is an interview he did on SABC, sorry, South Africa Broadcasting Corporation yesterday.
As you know, when the results were declared on the 15th of August last year, nobody celebrated. Most Kenyans were in a mourning mood because they knew that they had been cheated. Now the facts have come out. A whistleblower has spoken and has actually produced the original forms that were used in counting and tallying the votes from constituencies across the country. Those forms are original. They cannot be faked. They are signed by returning officers, countersigned by agents. There's the stamp of the Electoral Commission, and there's even the barcode, which if you scan, tells you the date, the location, the time from when those forms were transmitted to the National Tallying Center. They have shown that these forms were falsified, were altered, and the results which were announced by the Electoral Commission are different from the actual results. Now the results which have come out show that I got 8.1 million votes. My opponent got 5.9 million votes. In other words, I beat him by over 2 million votes.
All right, now that is Raila Odinga in an interview with SABC, that is South Africa Broadcasting Corporation, yesterday. We just want to, pick your mind on that. New evidence has come out. People were not celebrating when the results were announced. Edgar, your take?
I celebrated. I don't know which people did not celebrate.
Well, his supporters did not celebrate.
Yeah, his supporters did not celebrate. That is what was expected of them, not to celebrate, because they were expecting him to win with a deep state and with everything, with all the power that he had. They were expecting him to win. Now that they didn't win and they had all that power, and they didn't have to celebrate. But if you look at the website of the whistleblower, what do you see? First, Raila is a beneficiary of the whistleblower. The declarations by the whistleblower to the United States government, because you have to make declarations, is that the beneficiary is Raila Odinga, and it was running Raila Odinga's campaign in the US. Number two, John Githongo, who provided evidence, fake evidence to the Supreme Court, is an advisor listed at the website of the whistleblower. Tell me if it is not John Githongo who wrote that 8.1 million evidence of hot air. The case was dismissed, and the same people are still going around calling the president to have a handshake with them.
Now, do they really want a handshake? Is that what they want? They've been accused of wanting a handshake, but maybe that's not what they're looking for.
Yes, this is a handshake brewing. And the president has called these people to stop looking for ways in which they can have a handshake, because there is no handshake government coming in any way. There is none. So this is a distraction. Raila is doing very well, and I give him 100% in theatrics. And he's going to cause mayhem, by the way. Today, he's going to cause mayhem, and that is what he has planned to do, and there is no evidence whatsoever on anything that is happening. This is just politics, and Kenyans who subscribe to him will follow him, and the country will be at a standstill again.
Just probably to speak, in regards to what they say they're not planning to, cause disruption or something like that, but they also have a right to, go out and, express their dissatisfaction. Do you believe that this is maybe, it's already too late and there is nothing that can actually be done to change whatever, outcome we already did have?
Nothing can be done legally to change the outcome. Nothing should be done because we've accepted a process. Now, following September and the verdict, the collective relief was that, okay, for the first time in a long time, or maybe since 2013, we had a peaceful election, relatively, okay? Disputed but peaceful. Looking at the numbers, at no point did anybody see such a widespread either way, okay? There was that element of, it's politics, let's play politics with the numbers, 60, 30, 60. But we knew it would be a close election, and that's what it was. And that's what the numbers showed. Now, these estimated numbers, there's such a widespread, it's on the face of it, it's not believable. Now, in terms of what can be done, it's different from what must be done. As always, like I said before, this is work in progress. Let's look at improving those areas where the Supreme Court said, let's improve. But what I'd like to caution Kenyans as well is, whatever side of the divide you are, don't get pulled up into this rhetoric, because you see, there's always a beneficiary of political temperatures ratcheting up, and on both sides. Yesterday, I listened to a little bit of the president's visit to Kirinyaga, and what struck me the most was Ndindi Nyoro. I like what he said. He said, look, I respect Raila, he's a leader, and you not abuse him. But on this one, I think many people disagree with you, Yes. It doesn't mean that we have to ram it down Azimio supporters' throats that, you didn't do this, or then Azimio supporters need to then go to war with the UDA supporters, so Kenya Kwanza online, or that sort of thing. That cycle is what we are trying to stop. Yes. And the way to stop it is not by starting it again. Yes. So I think on both sides, let cooler heads prevail. And this is where sometimes Mwai Kibaki, may rest in peace, he was no saint, but politically he was savvy. Let's not have this call and response game again. Yes, somebody has to be smarter, Let's be smart, Let's be smart. It's like yesterday. I was taking a walk, and then I walked past somebody's gate. It's a silly example. And then I didn't see this dog, and then it just came and started barking, So what was my reaction? Was my reaction to turn and start barking at the dog, or to continue with my walk? You know what I mean? So let's be smart. Yes.
So who needs to be smart here? Because the thing. I believe with this statement, the government was rattled to some extent, because the kind of response that we are receiving is focusing majorly on that. Now, just like the example you've given, if at all the dog barks and you continue doing your thing and ignore it, then, it's going to stop to some extent. But if you now start, engaging it, then, we have an issue right now. It becomes, each one of you is actually backing at one another. Right now, maybe that could be exactly what we're looking at. The opposition could actually be trying to attack the government to see what kind of response they get. If you attack the opposition, then maybe that's exactly what they're looking for.
Yes, they're actually setting a narrative to the government. They want the government to be distracted, and they want the government to talk about it. There were allegations last week that Chebukati was going to be murdered. Who is setting the tone for this discussion? Is it the person behind Azimio? Because they'll be found culpable. In a public gallery, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya accused DCI Kinoti of planning to put a bullet on Kitumbi's head. Did you watch it?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm not talking about yeses. Deputy President, His Excellency. That aside. The sitting president, His Excellency William Ruto, accused, I was about to say something, but accused the people who are running the former government of trying to abduct and murder the IEBC chair. So whatever is being responded to by Azimio is a destruction of that accusation, public accusation. So people are asking, why can't you do something about it? But they are saying, but I've done it. It is in the public opinion and you are talking about it. When I prosecute my predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, because of what he was about to do, then you will be having a prior opinion before I put him to the dock or Raila Odinga to the dock to answer to the charges of murder because they are out there. So, is Uhuru Kenyatta calling the shots of Azimio to go to Kamkunji to divert the conversation that is of murder?
Okay. That's a question. You believe this is a distraction to some extent because now that accusation did come out, and also the accusation on it, Itumbi's life being under threat and things like that. And at some extent, we are questioning, and I remember Martha Karua actually putting it to them and saying, why did it take you like 5 months to actually talk about it? Accusations about murder are very serious accusations. You should have reported that to the relevant authorities and let them take it up. This is not something that you joke with. But it took you 5 months to actually, bring it out to the public domain. You should, when we were going to the Supreme Court and actually having these cases, this is exactly what you needed to say. By the way, my life was under threat. I was almost abducted and, murdered and things like that. Why did it take you so long? And just like you said, do you believe that this is actually a distraction to actually take the people away from this particular conversation?
Going back to that Kirinyaga church service yesterday, the women rep for Kirinyaga, she's a very young lady, she's a lawyer. And yesterday she said, Jerry, yes. She said something, this is a clip, the thing that caught my attention. She said, and I think she was referring to Raila Odinga, she said, alianza maandamano before we were born. So she's talking about herself and people younger than her. It's true. So my caution, if I was in that meeting yesterday, I would have stood up and said, you know what? And I think the deputy president said something that was along those lines. Don't be distracted. Don't be distracted. When you win government and you've won it and it's been confirmed and you believe that you won it, govern. Govern. Because the Kenyan cycle where we, it's always like it's a battle for legitimacy and it goes on and on and on. Today the face of that opposition, if you will, is Raila Odinga. He may not be with, of course he's human, he won't be with us forever, yeah? As a government, my advice to Kenya, Kwanza, is govern. Govern. Don't get caught up in the rhetoric because you see, that's the work of an opposition. Okay. Yes, that's the work of an opposition. And in Kenya, the way it's done, because it's been led by the same formation for a long time, this is the standard practice. Okay. But you're not going to beat Raila at his own game by also starting now to ratchet up, the political temperature. That to me is the wrong strategy. Okay. The tough talk and everything, I think is the wrong strategy. Work, just work, Then in rallies, you can have, and I think that's what the deputy president was saying yesterday. You're saying, Mr. President, please just continue, continue along the path you're on. Economic changes we have, and that's what you're focused on. Let us deal with the political side of what we are doing. But also in doing that, we must always remember, I think the last time we were here, we looked at the numbers. Out of 21 million voters, I think 14 million voted, and it was sort of evenly split. Okay. Let's not ignore that our country politically is divided, and the way to cure that is not to divide it further. Okay. Yes, let's be smart.
Okay. How do we go about curing that division, Edgar? You're politically divided. Right now, there's a lot of people that will be heading to Kamkunji to listen to what sort of direction their, political leader is going to give them. they need to, I've looked at Twitter and some of the things that people are saying, we're waiting for Baba to come and give us a direction and tell us exactly what we need to do. But you have one side of the government that wants to work, needs to, like Cliff says, avoid detractors. They should not be distracted from whatever they need to do. But to some extent, they look like they are, just giving in and, following the lead of the opposition.
Elections ended, and we have one president. And the president is a unifying factor to the whole country. And that is what we have to bear in our minds. Because last week he made a trip to the stronghold of Raila Odinga to begin an economic transformation. And all the MPs were rallied behind the president, and the governors were rallied behind the president for a transformation of Luo Nyanza, because he is a president of all and because elections have ended. Brian, there is no political divide. This person is the leader of opposition who is supposed to check the government. Let us not make that mistake. He is there to check whether the government is working or not. What he is doing now is maybe testing waters, whether the government can bend to his side. He's just testing waters. Otherwise, what is happening right now in government is too hard to check, because there are many correct things that are happening in government. But two, it is hard to take Raila to court because of the accusations that are being taken to his door. If you try to probe Raila because of trying to murder Chebukati, of the former president,
that's just an allegation.
That is an allegation from a sitting president. It is not just an allegation. So, if you try to take that to their door, it will be even harder. What you do, throw it to the public. Now, you wonder why these people should respond to a barking dog, like what he has said.
Quote
yes, quote unquote.
Yeah.
He should. You know why? The former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, tried it to ignore his critics. He became totally unpopular, out-tweeted by a nobody who is a deputy. As the public opinion. So when you throw it to the public opinion nicely, then you will be allowed to govern. You cannot govern an ungovernable state. When you want to govern a state, you throw food that allows you to govern. Defend yourself. Because their word is good as your word. So let's see who carries the day. So you say, you stole elections. I say, you murdered.
So it's a political strategy to some extent to see exactly how do we balance the ground and make sure that I actually get to progress in terms of governance. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. I want to take a break here on the program. We continue with this conversation in just a few. We are talking about the opposition and probably Raila's, political card. What exactly is he eyeing to do this morning when he just back from South Africa? I believe in a few he'll be actually here and headed to Kamkunji. Right, we come back in a few.
Already seen all of it from here, thanks to my wonderful long neck.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College is focused on being the leading technical and vocational training institute in the region. Our team possesses in-depth knowledge and extensive experience in the industry, offering thorough training in cosmetology, hairdressing, interior design, creative arts, training of trainers, nail technology, and fashion design, with branches in Nairobi, Thika, Meru, Eldoret, and now in Mombasa. Our courses ensure that learners are completely equipped with knowledge, competency, and employability skills. Enroll today to be a part of a center of excellence.
All right, now thank you so much for staying with us. You're back here on the program, having a conversation in regards to what is happening right now in the country. That is the Azimio la Umoja rally that is expected to be happening this morning at the Kamukunji grounds, led by the coalition's flag bearer, that is Raila Odinga. Before we went for a break, we're just talking about how the government is, bending to some extent, but biting that which the opposition is actually giving them, and responding to these all allegations and all that, and to some extent, not focusing on what they should be focusing on. Let me bring it to you, just behind the scenes, talking about how this has always been happening in terms of this card, Raila Odinga's card, that to some extent always gets to play and bear fruits for him. We remember the deputy president, actually, that is Rigathi Gachagua, saying, we know exactly what you did in 2007, in 2017 with Uhuru Kenyatta. You tried to come up with this so that you actually get, a share of the government and all that. We know who is financing you and things like that. There's so many allegations. And also the president coming out and saying, I understand, I know this, but this time around you're not going to get whatever you're looking for. So how could they stop this, if at all we say it's a card that has been played and to some extent always works?
Okay, so in fact, you started at 2007. The deputy president went back to 1997. Okay, because remember after 97, especially for younger viewers, there was this element of the word was cooperation. So and then eventually NDP and KANU merged. You remember that? It's unbelievable. If you read in Kenyan history and you see how powerful, Moi was on that presidency, that merged, But anyway, then the same thing happened 20 years later with Jubilee and ODM. It was effectively a joint venture, not a merger, direct merger. Yeah. So the important thing for strategists, and I have a lot of respect for Kenya Kwanza, because you'd say, as the English say, Azimio snatched defeat from the jaws of victory as they had structured it. You know what I mean? Yeah, because you have this all-powerful state, you have a sitting president, and he's come out guns blazing against what was effectively the opposition candidate, who was his deputy at the time. And everything seemed aligned for Azimio. So with that background, where we are now, you, as Kenya Kwanza, you need to be confident in your victory, and I'm going to use a lot of animal analogies today. They say, don't wrestle with a pig in the mud, because that is its domain. That is its domain. So the same strategists who achieved this historic win, go back to the drawing board, take a deep breath. You don't have to respond to everything. You know what I mean? You don't have to respond to everything. That mistake has been made before. Take a step back. Understand what the potential trajectory of this is. Because the Azimio as it is now, the former MP for, I think, Daragwa, they have all the time in the world, conferences and everything. But as a government, people are looking to you today to see how you can influence the price of the food, of our staple foods that you're putting on the table, the price of fuel, education. Kids are going back to school, I think, beginning today or tomorrow. You know, those are the things that the average Kenyan is battling with today.
Okay.
Political rhetoric will never end,
okay,
but the way you respond to it can change.
Okay.
Yes.
If they don't give it much airtime and try to ignore it, what could happen?
The media, both print and broadcast, yes. Thank you for correcting that. Some of them are orphans, orphaned by Raila Odinga. The media was in bed with Azimio and the former government. So the narrative that is flying here and there is a creation of the media. If Raila Odinga was given a fair coverage, then a good perspective would have reached many Kenyans. We are ignoring the fact that whatever allegations are being brought out even have been denied by the person who owns the website. So people are fathering things that should not be fathered in the country. And we should, I wish as Kenyans, we should look at things twice before we go acting on them. But it is work of Raila Odinga. He started a long time ago. And I had my friend saying that Moi was the most powerful president. That is how they underrated William Ruto. This time round, it's not going to work. The handshake, the 1997 handshake, it was a handshake by the, let me refresh your memory. The 2002 handshake was being brewed. 2007, there was a handshake. 2013, it was going to be close. 2017 was a real one. 2022, this is the time, you know, Azimio people underrated William Ruto so much, and they are still underrating him. And I hear people outside there saying that he's a one-term president. Watch him.
Now, there's this site that Edgar keeps referring to, and you know, there is Jeffrey Smith, who's supposedly the whistleblower. Let me just take a look at what he said in his Twitter. He says, crucially, now the initial analysis, which caveats, doesn't dictate that Kenya's 2022 election was stolen. Now those claiming or alluding otherwise aren't credible. This is why I personally focused on recommendations to improve elections. Now, what was the team's conclusion? While perhaps not material enough to change the outcome of the presidential election, the discrepancies are such that it is impossible to predict an outright winner and sufficient to cast doubt on the validity of the final results announced by the IEBC. That is Jeffrey Smith. And, you know, he comes out and says he's not the whistleblower. And most of the time I avoid responding to fake news, but I'm compelled to call this out. The reports circulating that I'm the so-called whistleblower in Kenya making claims that the August 2022 election was rigged are categorically false. It's cynical and wholly misleading.
That is fair broadcast. That's fair. That's fair.
Now listen, how do we go about what should be the opposition's focus? Because I'm looking at Kabando speaking, telling the Azimio coalition not to do it. No, don't do this. Don't go to Kamkunji. Don't start casting doubt in regards to this election. We already went to the Supreme Court. Focus on keeping the government in check. Are they deviating away from probably the function, quote unquote, that they should be focusing on right now?
You know, even that name, Jeffrey Smith, I wanted to laugh out loud when you read that thing. You know? And this is what I'm saying. I could have, even without you reading that, I could have told you on Saturday that there was nothing in this thing. But you see, in politics, politics is, in fact, people study political science. All the things that people do today, there's a background to it, you know, agitating the masses, misinformation, you know.
Propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda, you know. Even if you go back to the dark times of the Nazis, they mastered these things. They mastered these things. And when you're a sitting government, you need to also master it. Not just during an election, even post an election, you need to master it, counter it, you know. But don't, like this one, is such a shallow trap. It's something that you just skip over, you know. Look, Jeffrey Smith, who's Jeffrey Smith? Because I thought last week on Friday when I first heard these allegations, I thought it was an IBC employee. I thought it would be somebody here whose background can be traced and he can tell us that I was in the data center or something like that. Jeffrey Smith, you know. So anyway, to your question,
They say Jeffrey Smith was an independent firm that actually did its own analysis in regards
now
to that election.
there were so many analyses. Anyway, I don't want us to reconvene a kangaroo court here.
Okay.
Let's go back to your question. So you're asking what the opposition should be doing. Again, it's politics. The opposition does have a role. Okay, but having said that, then again, you can't dictate to the opposition what role they're going to play. You can only play your role as government. Okay, so once again, let's not fall into that trap of that political cycle starting again, and then before you know it, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. We're already on a path to reforming IBC. 3 commissioners have resigned at the end. I mean, not resigned, they've retired, exited at the end of their term. Another 3 have resigned, and I think there's still 1 with a pending tribunal. Okay, so whichever way you cut it, we will have a new set of IBC commissioners. Okay. Because if Commissioner Masit was to, defend herself successfully, and it's politically viable, then she'll be there, but we'll have, I think, 6 new commissioners. Yeah. That's fine, okay? So that's a box we're ticking. Number 2, the Supreme Court, that was a very long judgment. They have their recommendations. Let's address those one by one, one by one, one by one, one by one. So if I'm in opposition today, then my thinking should be, what here, if I let go of hubris and my disappointment, what here may or may not have contributed to my loss, okay? And then even if I'm in government, I'm also thinking what in this list may or may not contribute to a win or loss in 2027. And then let's go to Parliament, the People's House. Let's, because that's the genesis of this thing, let's come back to the people because of public participation as is required by the Constitution, and let's move on. But remembering that Kenya today is very different from Kenya, say, in 2013. We do not have the time or space to focus only on politics. People are hungry. Okay.
Your take on this particular, are we focusing, are they directing their energy to the right course as far as opposition is concerned? And maybe you are pro-government, but so what's your take on that?
No, I'm pro what is right. Yeah, and what's my take on that? If they are focusing the energies on what is right, it is within their right to focus on that and to test the waters where whether this government can crumble, can come down, crumbling. And it will be to their advantage. As we know that there was a school of propaganda a long time ago. You'd go 4 years to study propaganda, how to sway the masses. The school of politics, where you sit down and learn how to do politics. And those are people who have sat down. And the people behind Raila Odinga are failing him. This is not how to do it. Where you will go back and you dig it. But he's depending on the ignorant masses who cannot go back to prove what his allegations are. And when as Brian Amwai, who has an authority in this room to say something, you shouldn't say that Jeffrey is an independent analyst. Go probe into him. Your editor or this person who called us here should be looking into the story that is going to run and say, this story is coming from this website. What is this website doing? You should be having that fact in your hand. In fact, John Githongo is listed as an advisor on that website. Tell me whether they're independent. No. That is Azimio outright. Azimio outright. So when we come out as the media, let's come out in truth to inform Kenyans. But the opposition is thriving on misinformation, which is within their right. And it is within the right of politics. That's why it should be answered politically. Go cook yours. But it will be too low to cook yours. Answer it factually. Let not people discover you cooking. But if they don't discover, then you win. And you have a bargain. The government will ask, what do you want?
Okay.
And you will be like,
and that's exactly what I want
money.
to...
I want money.
I want to throw that to you because this is the thing, and it's just something that has been, it's a cliche and has been used in the political arena for quite a while. You cannot continue doing the same thing over and over again and, expecting different results and things like that. Yes. But if the same thing has always proven to maybe give you results, maybe that is why we are seeing the same thing being repeated over and over again by the opposition, because they are looking at a possibility of, if we do this, then that's, what you're going to get is this. But at the end of the day, Cliff, if Azimio coalition is this big, outfit with so many people in it, if we are going to have a handshake, the only person that is going to benefit from that is not everybody from that coalition. Then is this of selfish gain to some extent? If at all, you're not saying that that's what they're seeking, but if at all that's what they're seeking, come together and a handshake, will it not be selfish on the coalition's flag bearer part?
It always is, because you see, when you have, after every political cycle, you have what effectively becomes, okay, the political term is a government of national unity. That actually narrows the democratic space, because it means that it's one formation. If you can always find a way to cannibalize democracy in a sense, and then make sure that, then what's the point of elections if after every election both those opposing forces are going to unite anyway? So for me, I'm very focused in my mind that we need a functional government, which we have today, and we need a credible opposition. And the two, it's not a wedding, the two should never merge. They should never merge. Yes. The only time when that is necessary, or not even necessary, but when it should be considered, is in times of like grave calamity, be that war, or maybe you have like if you had like a natural disaster, massive, then maybe you can say, let people come together for a short period to sort that. We're not in those conditions today. So let's resist that. Let's resist that. Whichever side, then, I know, I don't know if you say somebody from Azimio, Kenya Kwanza is thinking maybe that's the way. I would say let's resist that. We don't have to resist it violently, but let's just resist it. Because that is what democracy demands.
All right.
It's always imperfect. But we need to try and get there. Now,
we are running out of time, and I'd like to finalize on this conversation before I touch on Irene Masit and the IBC. In terms of, are we at a position in our country, as a nation right now, to actually, because it's 4 months to 4 or 5 months after the elections and all that, are we at a position to say now, if people are called to go to the streets, they're actually going to do it? Considering the fact that those and violence are actually witnessed anywhere in the country. You had the Right Honorable Raila Odinga actually do say people are not celebrating, but they were not even picketing. People, they may have been disappointed by the results, some of the different supporters from his side, but they did not take to the streets to actually say we do not agree and things like that. Right now, if they were called upon and told, you see, we did win, but this is exactly what we were given by Chebukati and all that, do you think the Kenyans are at a position to actually say, okay, let's take to the streets and demand exactly what is ours, quote unquote? What would be the agenda, though? What would be the agenda? For me, I talk to a lot of people, the so-called ordinary Mwananchi, middle-class people, upper deck people, as Dr. Ndi calls them. There's no, you see, everybody's looking for evidence. And like I'm saying, this is not 97-207. Here, it's very clear. And I think I heard most people say, if there was an iota of evidence, bring 10 Form 34As from around Kenya, just 10. With about 7,000 votes, and then go to the portal and show Form 34As from the same polling stations with a different number.
then you can start to excite people.
No, that will be evidence
But
enough.
in the absence of that, we cannot afford it. Because, it's, sometimes people say, yeah, it's democratic, whatever. But the thing is, it costs us a lot in terms of business. Sometimes it has cost lives, and it definitely affects livelihoods. So let's not go down that road, because today, from where I sit, there's no agenda to take people to the streets.
Okay.
And it definitely cannot be Jeffrey Smith.
Edgar, your final take on this one before we get into my seat. You are seated here and, probably against this, what we call mandamano and all that. Are we as a country mature enough to say now, I don't believe it is right for us to go to the streets. There are so many things we should be focusing on. And you're actually calling it out, saying here, by the way, there is the economy, people are hungry and all that. People don't have to go start, looking at what happened in August and the elections, whether there was malpractice or not and things like that. Will people, when called upon to say, let's demand for what, quote unquote, is ours, will they do it?
Raila is at work. The Constitution allows us to picket peacefully, without affecting, without endangering the lives and the property of our neighbors.
Okay.
If you can do that peacefully, then you will be escorted, and you can say whatever you have to say.
Okay.
Raila is at work, and he's sharing in the taxpayers' money. Have you heard that the political parties are paid by you? So he's at work, and he's working, and let's allow him to work. And if we can go outside to do what he wants us to do, let's go.
Okay.
If we have time, let us go and do his bidding. He's at work.
This is what I want to throw to you. Listen, where do you draw the line when it comes to making peaceful protest and, airing your grievances? Because I remember there's a time somebody was arguing, I am hurt, and this is how I want to express it. You cannot condemn me for how I want to express my heart. So if I want to lie on the road, disrupt vehicles, transport and all that, that is exactly what I want to do. I'm hurt, understand my pain and things like that. So where do you draw the line and say, these people have a right to picket, but the right of picketing is this way of picketing is not allowed? How do you determine which is the right way to picket?
Just as you said, so you're lying on the road, I'm trying to get to work or to school, and you're impeding my progress. Automatically, then you've crossed the line, you know what I mean? But if you're standing on the side of the road, let's say, for example, it gets a bit, so you have something, and even throw an egg at the car so it doesn't hurt me, and then I can wash it off tomorrow. So I'm upset, but I'm not injured, okay? And I was able to go where I was
And
going.
my car is injured.
Yes.
Okay. Now that's the thing, because somebody will say, Cliff,
yes.
for me to make this message get across,
Yes.
then something needs to happen. Something needs to be seen like happening. If it's disruption, then people need, there needs to be a standstill to some extent. Because I don't believe somebody will say, okay, let's just march this way, and if we don't cover that as news and say people are rioting or people are marching somewhere, it won't be felt. How do you make your picketing be felt?
First of all, you have to have valid grounds. Because this is a battle for hearts and minds, okay? And the thing is also that these are organized demonstrations. There's a difference between organized and spontaneous.
Okay.
There's a big distinction there. So when a demonstration is organized, it is incumbent upon the organizers to ensure that it is peaceful.
Okay.
So if it is not, then let our legal system then swing into work. A spontaneous demonstration, that one now is another whole topic. Yeah, that's different.
Okay.
But this one is organized. So you said today, come to this venue, listen to me, and then from there, I will tell you what to do.
Okay.
That is organized. Because that means I've mobilized people, because I've used the media, and then I've arrived there, maybe I've even offered people transport. Then I've spoken to them, and I've instructed them to do something. Okay. So that is very simple, yeah? So if I'm living here now, and that rally was just up the road, and as I go, somebody smashes my windscreen, then when I go to register my complaint with the police, it should be very clear to them where the responsibility for that lies. Yeah, but that's different from, for example, if a car hits maybe somebody here on this road and people have been complaining, and now there's a spontaneous demonstration about bumps and everything. I think those are two different situations.
Okay. Now, as we wind up, because I'm running out of time, just a few seconds, we touch on this particular subject. Now, suspended IBC Commissioner Aidin Masit is expected to cross-examine retired IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati, Abdi Guliye, and Boya Molu before Justice Aggrey Michilule-led tribunal. Now, what's your take on this? Masit is the last woman standing. Yes, the last woman standing on this particular issue of the Cherera 4. As we wind up right now, Boya Molu, Abdi Guliye, and Chebukati are out of office. What do you make of IBC?
Let her have her day at the tribunal, you know, and if she's vindicated, let her be vindicated. If she's also found culpable, let her be found culpable. That's the rule of law. That's what we want to see. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Okay. So I'm happy with that. Okay.
She was misadvised.
You think she should have resigned?
Yes, she should have run.
Okay.
Why? There are glaring evidences of their involvement in malpractice, electoral malpractice. Captured in CCTVs, captured in narratives, captured by the Supreme Court. So all that is coming into the public limelight.
What if she believes she's actually innocent and maybe she has an explanation to that?
Let's hear it.
Okay.
The Kenyans watch, and Kenyans are not stupid. And I think you started by saying that this is not 2013, this is 2022, where information is out there and people know exactly what really happened, because the mainstream media was actually not reporting what was happening, but people used to get it from Facebook and Twitter and those other places. We saw the CCTVs and we saw the videos flying here and there. So you were trying to say, is this genuine? When you see the former CS without portfolio, Raphael Tuju, running up and down, making phone calls, we had audio clips, long ones, not fake. Things that have now been brought to the tribunal, all of them. And I wonder whether they are admissible. Now that report is going to come out. If the president himself will accuse the former president of trying to do 1, 2, 3, you think he's not going to bring all those into the public gallery? He is, to prove his point. Because 6 million people who voted for Raila Odinga are waiting for Raila Odinga to be accused fairly, so that they can also make a decision about Raila Odinga. You know, so if these people had gone home, all of them, there would be no tribunal. They wouldn't have been taken into the public gallery. But shame is coming tomorrow, because Masit is carrying Cherera 4 on her back. And cross-examining Chebukati might be easy, because he's an easy man. He's laid back. Marjan and those other people. And they might come on their own without their lawyers, because they know they are right. You know? When now you come opening like that, and then the lawyer of Masit is who?
David Kipkorir.
Yes, Kipkorir. Kipkorir will punch holes in Chebukati, in Marjan, and in everything. So those people should come prepared to be punched. And they are also bringing evidences that were taken to the Supreme Court. It's going to be murky. And Gachagua will not delay a bit. He will bring everything to you like boom.
Okay, he calls himself an honest man.
Yes, he's an honest man.
So David Kipkorir says he's ready. Yesterday he was prepping with Aidin Masit for the cross-examination that's supposed to be happening today. And they'll say it will be exciting, exhilarating, and cathartic. That's according to Kipkorir.
Big one.
Big one. All right, thank you so much for making time for this conversation this morning. I really do appreciate that's where we call it, we end it here on the big conversation here on the Morning Drift. My guest, Edgar Kosgey, when I call you again next time, kindly come.
Yeah, I'll be here earlier than him, just like today.
And Cliff Otega, thank you so much, Cliff, for making time.
Always a pleasure.
All right, let's do this again next time. Now, coming up is Newsroom Diary with Ian Keitani, and later on we'll be taking a look at what's trending before we call it a day here on The Morning Drift. Don't go too far, we'll be back in a moment.
Looking for an institution to further your studies and wholesome growth in serene environment? Kenya Methodist University is your best choice.